So you figure he turned 20 April 17th, 1985. I turned 19. By Thanksgiving, the Saturday of Thanksgiving, he was dead.
But after I've been crying all night, the sun is cold and the new day seems old. Since I lost my baby, since I lost my baby, oh, since I lost my baby, since I lost my baby.
Two things that changed my life, impacted my life: the death of my brother and the birth of my daughter. Those are the two things that impacted my life, because everything changed in 1985. I am Jerome R. McCree, brother of Iroquois D. McCree, younger brother, son of Alma E. McCree. Iroquois was born April 17th, 1965. A year and a week later, I popped up, April 24th, 1966.
I am Alma Elizabeth McCree. I am Iroquois' mother.
I'm Todd McCree, and I'm the third boy, basically. And Iroquois was like my brother. Well, he was my brother.
I am the youngest from my mother. It was just him and I. Knowing him, we were just like Batman and Robin frickin' frack.
How does a son impact a mother? Oh, I can't really articulate exactly how it does, but I do know it's a love affair with the sons. I didn't have a girl. Mom always said a girl is one thing, but a son is quite another one. There's no one like him, and that's the way it was with them. The most pleasantest young man that I've ever seen. I loved him very much. Iroquois was smart. He loved to read. He loved to play. And I think sometimes he thought he was a superhero. He was very strong.
He was boss. He was God. He was God in our family. Very few are selected for that position as being like untouchable. And he was one of those ones that was untouchable in the family. You couldn't touch him.
Good reader, good drawer. He could draw really good. He could play the drums. Cool. Superhero. Mischievous. He would think of something and you would do it.
I'm not saying it because I'm his mother. He was a good son. If all young men were like him during his teenage years and during his youth, I would have had 6 more boys.
You almost felt sorry for him because you knew he was just too smart. And I always did look up to him as far as advice, whether it came from girls and all of that, relationships, schoolwork, me and my mommy fighting, can you talk to me, comforter, he was a listener. He was like my dad. He's the only man in my life that was older than me. So he took on like a father figure.
He was my best friend. We had friends outside of, but all I knew was him. Then I would start meeting my own friends. But my best friend, I would say yes. We listened to AM station. 2 black kids in the projects listen to rock music. We start flipping to the FM stations. So music was our thing.
Going with Tate taking me ice skating. That was wild. We used to do that regular, go ice skating together. And playing hours of basketball one-on-one. And having the same type of hobbies. Our hobbies are so similar that it was impossible to tear us apart because everything I liked, he liked.
savoir faire pas Freddy dès qu'il dit privé. Toutes les femmes quand je suis elle me cool rap ouais. Et je suis cool dans le mood, tout me mécanique. Ah, je passe tous les mots de New York City. Yo, ma turn it to transfer, c'est ton péritoire. J'ai le téléphone coupé, I'm on the way on the top. La blues around de la blues, petit dans le bar. Ah, ma casse le son de clou, le boulot se fait rare. Je passe mon tour de café, jouer des vidéos. your favorite rapper, raver, catch your sway, Marlowe, to the beat.
I think he was curious, as most teenagers are. And of course, he's now going on 21 years old, or would have been 21 at April 17. And he liked his friends. He made good marks in school. Sometimes he made D's, but he was having a problem then.
We don't know how it started, but they said it could have been either the weed, cocaine was prevalent back then, or fighting. He was a fighter, but a couple of times he got sucker punched. It caused, they said, paranoid schizophrenia.
It was a problem there. It was a mental problem, which I was not used to and didn't understand. I was ignorant to what was happening to him. I don't think he understood it. But I felt alone. I did the best I could. My niece, Betty, helped me. There are things that I felt that I can't articulate into words, and I won't try to explain them now.
He was distant. There was no soul in his eyes. Nothing was there. You could look at him and knew that he was... You didn't know who was back there. There was no life. You know, he was sick, so he was born like a baby at that stage. Everybody was watching out for him. We didn't know he was going to react on one of us, so it was like high alert in the family. He was the number one priority.
And the things that he said was very little. He didn't talk that much, but he felt that somebody was chasing him. Someone was after him.
Everything was like, my album covers were demonic. That belongs to Satan. I used to drive for a delivery service, work for a delivery service, and I had the van keys. They stayed on top of the refrigerator, and he said the keys belong to Satan. I'm like, no, those are my job keys. So he took the keys. I'm like, give me the keys back, give me the keys back. And he's like, these are Satan's keys. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you're going to give me them keys back, pal. And we went at it. In a small kitchen about the size of this room. Tore the kitchen up. I got the keys back. I won the fight. But he sat back down at the end of the table and just looked at me with this blank stare. And I kept saying, what is wrong with you, man? Talk to me. It's me. What is wrong with you? And he was trying to articulate with his stare, but he wouldn't talk. I wish he could have articulated what he was going through. He wanted to tell me something. His eyes were saying a whole lot, but I couldn't get it. So that's the last thing I actually said to him. That's the last thing I said, what is wrong with you?
Him and Jerome had it out, you know, and I think Jerome didn't have enough sensitivity in him, and enough compassion to understand where he was at. Then he might have overreacted a tad bit. I just know that we both loved him, you know. I think I understood him a little bit more. I think Jerome was going through a grieving period watching his brother lose his life slowly. So I don't think it was more or less that. I think it was a situation of him just being so emotionally messed up that he just wanted to shake whatever was wrong with him out of him. Not to necessarily hurt him, but like, what's wrong with you? You know, like, I think the frustration had built up on him.
I took him to the hospital, and he walked away. He didn't speak. He just went away. And I went to the nurse and I said, my son is walking away and I can't stop him. He's not talking. He's not speaking to me or anyone. He's just walking, a brisk walk. And she said, call the police and they will help you bring him back.
At that time, my mom, then my cousin Betty came and said, you, Todd, take your girlfriends and go to the movie. Just leave. Betty gave us some money. We went to the movies. So the morning comes, I calls in, yo, I need a ride to the east side. There was cops everywhere.
And the next morning, we woke up. I told him I'd go up and get some breakfast for him. But then when I came back, he seemed normal before I went to the store. He seemed like Iroquois. He came back to himself. I thought he was going to be all right. I think that's why I decided that I could go to the store and come back. But when I came back, it wasn't Iroquois at all. It was someone else that I didn't recognize as a mother. When you look at your child's eyes, you know who that is. And that was not my son, in my opinion. He was quite different. So I was told to call the police. They would help me to get him to the hospital. The policeman came. I explained his situation to them, and they said, "Don't worry, we will help you. You have to stand back." It seems like to me they had a straitjacket that they laid down on the loin, and they went in to get him, and somehow he must have felt threatened. But I was out in the yard and they were in the kitchen talking to my son, Iroquois. I didn't hear him say one word, but all of a sudden I heard a big noise and a policeman came running through the screen door. He burst the screen door open and he slid on the rock walkway, and he turned around and I looked up and my son was there, and he was spread eagle in the doorway, and in his hand he had my bread knife, and that's the only knife that was in the house, a serrated bread knife. And the policemen, there were 3 of them, 4 really, but 3 was up front, they pulled their guns. The situation had changed completely in just a split second. So I'm looking at my son, but as I looked at him, he looked innocent. He had the knife in front of him with his arms crossed. He hadn't moved. He was spread eagle. And all of a sudden, I could see in the policemen's faces that they were about to shoot him. The muscles in their cheek had tightened. And I said, "Don't shoot my son." I said again, "Do not shoot my son." I said, if it comes to that, you shoot him in the leg, but don't you shoot my son. And all of a sudden, it happened. And from that moment on, I could only imagine that they were killing him. I couldn't believe that they were killing him. Looking at TV, it makes bullets sound different. I looked at my son to see if he were really shot, but I realized that he was because I saw his eyes flutter. And he was falling to the left, and he turned to the right, and each step he took, he was falling nearer and nearer to the ground until he came down the steps and he was on his knees. And the cop in front of him shot him 2 or 3 more times. The papers said that he was shot 7 times, but he was shot 8 times.
Lisa ran up to me. "They shot Coy. They shot Coy." I'm like, "What?" And she's grabbing me. "They shot Coy. They killed Coy." She's in tears. I see cops. I see Betty grabbing badges off the cops. And my mom just sitting there on the park bench with this blank stare. So I'm puzzled. And I just kneeled down on one knee and said, "Mom, what happened?" She goes, "I just called for help." And all of a sudden I heard pop, pop, pop. And he fell. But in my mind, if my mom didn't go to the hospital, he has to be dead. That's just the person she is.
I had an out-of-body experience. That's how come I had to ask my niece, where was I? I couldn't believe that I was there. I went to him, and I sort of picked up him, and I heard, they call it the death rattle, like a growling noise. That was his last breath.
I got a crazy phone call, I would say, from my sister. There was a lot of commotion in the background, so I think I heard they just shot Iroquois. And I think that phone hung up, and then I tried to call back, couldn't get an answer. Called Jerome, he was outside. He called me back, I was upstairs in the bathroom, and it was like some type of force was not letting us connect together. If you ever talk to him about that, it's just something that you have to really feel. And I knew, like, and we called each other like 10 times and just kept on missing each other. It wasn't meant for us to be together at that moment. I think all hell could have broke loose. And I think we both had to came home that day and seen the police there and Iroquois dead. I think it would have been total tragedy. We would have been all dead. Most definitely. They would have killed all of us. Shock. I didn't know what was what. I didn't know, did I hear what I just thought I heard? Did I just hear that? Like, I can't get back in touch with anybody. So my question was that really what it was? By the time I got to the hospital, I really thought that he was possibly in surgery and it was bringing him back. I think I knew he was dead maybe, but it didn't hit me until they said it. Until I saw everybody's reaction when I walked through the doors. Everybody, Jerome's looking this way, Mommy's crying, Lisa's crying, Jerome's outside. I think Jerome's first word was, they killed him. They killed him, and he kept on walking away.
And I remember we walk in the hospital, there's 2 white doors. I guess that's where the morgue is at. And there he is laying on the gurney. Now they pull the sheet back. And what broke me was I watched my mother stick her finger in 8 bullet holes and count them. She counted each bullet hole. Didn't shed a tear, just counted each bullet hole. Said, they shot my son. All I wanted to do was ask for help. At that time, I break down, start crying, I go out, and I lose it. I said, they shot him. I seen him go through a lot, but that was a lot for me, and I was only 19. He was 20 years old.
Well, the day before he got killed, I was home. I was home to that night, and then me and Jerome went to the movies. You know, I think that was a fatal mistake on our behalf. That haunts me. If I would have been home, maybe I could have prevented all this from happening. Everybody take blame in this. You know, nobody blames Iroquois though. And he's the one that grabbed a knife that fulfilled his fate. You know, that was it. Once he touched that knife, his fate was sealed.
Everything changed for a lot of people, not only my immediate family, anybody that was connected to us, the whole neighborhood literally changed.
I climb way up to the top of the stairs, and all my cares just drift right into space. On the roof is peaceful as can be, and there the world below can bother me. Let me tell you now, when I come home feeling tired and weak, I go up where the air is fresh and sweet.
I literally had to go back to work within 3 days. Just go back about your lives. He's dead. You got to carry on. That's what it was like in the 80s. But at the same time, coming back home was totally different. Totally different. My mother lost it. She's a chef by trade, but her food didn't even taste good anymore. She couldn't even cook cornbread. She was just a different person. She still is. She still is. I was a different person.
Everything I felt was contained within me, reasoning it out, thinking about how could this happen? Why? A man with a bread knife and standing 7 to 8 feet away. What danger would he be to a police with a gun? Bullets are faster than a knife, and you have to get to a person to stab him in the first place. He couldn't have moved because he was in a spread eagle position. So all of these things go through your head, and I guess most mothers would cry, holler, but everybody react to their situations different. And I'm sorry to say that people misunderstand people that's mourning or feeling bad. They think they should fall out. But no, my family don't do that. When my mother found out, she looked at him and one tear fell under her cheek, and that was the end of that. But the inside was hurt. A friend of ours, which was a teacher from Athens that was visiting, I heard her say to my niece, she's in shock. She doesn't know what's happening. Because see, I was acting like I would be every day, not in mourning, but I was contained in that. So knowing a little bit about the Bible, when it says that the spirits mourn and speak for those that can't, I felt that something was praying and speaking for me. I can't talk about this anymore.
I didn't have an emotional reaction when he died. I didn't. I was very clear-headed. Like it never even happened. I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, when I came home from high school and I did my ritual, yo koi, That's what we call them, Koi. I would yell upstairs, I'm home, yo, Koi. And when I did that, I didn't hear him respond. Then I broke down about 2-3 weeks later. That's when it hit me when he didn't answer. We don't talk about it. You know, everybody in his family went through their own trials and tribulations after his death. Everybody. I think our lives are pulling us in different. Our lives are probably pulling us in different situations. My life is pulling me out towards the streets. Jerome's life, streets. Lisa was trying to go to college, go live in New York. Mommy was doing her own thing, working hard every day. Elizabeth's in a trance. She's just going on life like it's just life. But you can see she was going.
I found that I was levitating. I would drive to work and something would be drawing me out of the car, and I had to really be strong. I would literally, in my mind, I was floating around in the air. And it must have been a mental thing. After Iroquois was killed, I never experienced anything like that. I guess it came from the fact that I was no longer down on the ground when he was being shot. I was up in the tree. That's where I was. But my niece assured me I was standing down on the ground watching them kill my son. It was an out-of-body experience. I kept having those out-of-body experiences. That's where that levitation come in.
And you kind of left out there. Like I said, there was no grief counseling. We kind of, poof. Even though we would see each other, you know, oh, that's them, their brother got shot. Their brother got shot. It's the McCrees, you know. And you were like a celebrity, but you weren't a celebrity. You don't want to be known for that. Like, ooh, oh, they're going to get millions of dollars. They're going to get millions of dollars. It's not about money. It's not about money. If I tell you how much it was after the fact, you can't put $1 billion on a human life. If I said I will give you $1 billion, but I get to kill your mother, would you take the $1 billion? No one would. Give me $1 billion, let me kill your son. So it wasn't much money. You know, I don't even like discussing the money because it was kibbles and bits. You know, it didn't change anything. He's still not here.
I think some of the things I experienced in life, if he was alive, I would have made this path. You know, he would have stopped me a long time ago from the way I'm living today. I'm living all right, but I would say my experience in life has been so wild and crazy and rough that without him, I lost some guidance. It was traumatic. It's like it's impossible to say you see somebody today and they're gone tomorrow. And if you really understand that, like I just talked to you and tomorrow you're gone, I'm never gonna see you again. Like boom, like that was quick. Like what the hell just happened? That's how fast it goes. It affects you like that. I mean, Jerome went to himself. He too went reclusive. He just exiled himself and got into his own world.
It kind of messed me up. Ever since I can remember, it was just me and him in the house playing with the Lego sets, the G.I. Joes, the Army Men, riding bikes, making bikes, building forts, catching snakes, salamanders, frogs, dancing, playing instruments. And you add Tom Leeson to the mix. It was the four of us. It was always the four of us. Then all of a sudden, boom, somebody's missing permanently. So it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. Have I dealt with it 100%? Nah. Like, I don't forget who he is. I can see him, like, I can close my eyes and see him right now. You go through the sadness and everything like that, but it eats away at you after a while. Little by little, because you don't know how to deal with the emotion, so you act out in other ways.
He was murdered. He was straight gunned down like a dog in front of his family. And they walked with their pensions. Well, the political answer is yes, Black Lives Matter, and we should take a look at it, and we should march, and we should have conferences and get better police training. You can go through all that. And my answer is like, it doesn't make a difference to me because I see black people die every day. That's a part of life. I mean, black lives haven't mattered since the 80s and before then, but I didn't live in that time, the 60s and the 50s and slavery. I don't think black lives have ever mattered. So I don't worry about a black life being missing because that's a normal situation. We die.
No, I never thought of it that way. I was more of an individual thing. It was my son, and I never thought about black lives or white lives. A life is a life, and it should never be destroyed. Especially when such a thing has happened as it did with Iroquois. He was sick. He hadn't hurt anybody, and I was getting help. But I just feel like sometimes the law does what it can do, but sometimes we have policemen, they are not very brave people. Some of them are cowards, and they are afraid of their perpetrators, But it was unnecessary killing, and it was an overkill, in my opinion.
If you don't speak up, no one knows. So your little input can help somebody or shed light on your personal experience that might help another family, whether it's a white life or a blue life or a Latino life, you know what I mean? Something. Or black life. Because I never, like I said, never equated to Black Lives Matter, but yeah, I'm part of the Black Lives Matter. Directly, not indirectly, directly. They just didn't have a label on it back then. There was no label whatsoever. It was just like, oh, he got killed. I think he'd be very proud. I think he'd be very proud of what I'm doing, that I'm a father, trying to be a good father, best father, trying to get to be a great father. I think he'll be proud of Todd, Lisa. I think if he could just pop up right now and say, hey, you're doing it. From wherever he's at, looking at what we went through and seeing all of us now, our lives is somewhat back together and not all the turmoil. Yeah, he'll be okay. He'll be happy with us.
Because I'm strong, durable, I take it from him. When I think about surviving, I'll be like, Iroquois, what would you do?
That was the beauty of him. He could do everything he wanted to do. What would I say to Iroquois today? What our mother would always say to him. I love you. Do good. Obey the laws. Take care of yourself and your family. But it's hard for me to sit down and think about him and talk about him because I would begin to miss him. It's so much I miss after they killed him. I won't see him get married. I won't see what kind of life he would live. I can't see the things that he would do. And you miss all of those things. The mother and the father don't forget those things. How could they? You take a boy 9 months or a girl 9 months, he's a part of you. And when they killed him, they killed a part of me. I understand something now. And when I think of him, that part hurts. It's an empty space. And it'll always be till I see him again.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, 'cause I've had nothing to live for, and look like the dock